Amen.
So I now want to shift us, as is tradition in my mom's shiva leadership, and mine, to just have some time for sharing any stories that anyone has about my Uncle Joe, or and we'll have more time, I think, after for people to visit and introduce themselves. But I think for people that did know my Uncle Joe, it'd be wonderful to hear from you, so that the many people that are on can get a sense of what a special person he was. So you can just jump in, but also if you want, you can just write me in the chat, and then I will call on you if it seems like everyone's talking at once.
Go ahead. You should go ahead. Okay, I guess I'll talk first. Losing anyone is certainly a source of sadness and grief, but Joe, my brother-in-law, lived a wonderful life. He was loved, respected, had a life of accomplishment, absolute integrity, was married to his wife, Marcia, for over 60 years, in an absolutely wonderful marriage, had 3 very different children, but all of them wonderful in their own ways, and each of them marrying someone equally wonderful. And it was a wonderfully close, extended family.
Grandchildren.
And grandchildren. Thank you, Penny. And Joe had a way of including everyone. The people who worked for him, the people he dealt with in business, the people in his synagogue, but just about everybody he encountered. He was a person of great enthusiasm for music, for books, and maybe especially for food. And he was always, besides going to famous restaurants, discovering not famous restaurants that no one had heard of that he could share with other people. One of the things, a number of people said Joe was one of the smartest people they'd ever met. But one of the things Mark, his son, said at the funeral was, as smart as he was, Joe never felt like he knew everything, or that there was anyone who he couldn't learn something from. And part of why he was so wise, I think, was that he learned from so many people. And well, maybe I'll end with the last thing, that wonderful thing that Mark said as part of his eulogy. He said that he was sure that up in heaven there was a table for 2 already set for Joe and Marcia. And I like to think that that's true.
I'm so glad that Louis is here, and I know Jean is here. Is Mark also here? Jean, is Mark here? Do you know?
No, he's not here yet. He is
coming. Okay.
on his way. Yeah.
Louis or Marianne, are you willing to talk now?
I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what to say.
I suppose we should introduce you first of all. You're the oldest son.
I am the eldest son. I am also the most distant child physically, since my wife and I are sitting here in our living room in Lexington, Kentucky, which meant that we had the experience of living through this last week of funerals and shivas through the miracles of modern technology rather than in person. And I'm most grateful that technology has allowed us all to be together, even as we weren't physically able to make it there between the weather and the pandemic. I mean, I have so many thoughts about my dad. I'm not really sure what to say or where to begin. I do think one thing that Ken said was that he was a large presence, and I think I've been reflecting on that a lot the last couple of days, because I feel we lost my mom just over a year ago. And I miss her terribly too, but my mother was a quieter person, a shyer person, not the presence in a room that my father was. And for better or for worse, when when a larger presence is extinguished, the whole feels so much larger and bigger. And I feel this real sense of emptiness. The fact that it came so unexpectedly and was such a surprise to us all obviously contributes to that as well. I still find myself waking up, thinking I want to pick up the phone and give him a call today, and having to come to terms with the fact that there's no one there to answer on the other end. But my dad was a lovely man, and he did honor all of us with his love, all of our spouses with his love, all of his grandchildren with his love. And we miss him terribly.
Thank you, Lou. Marianne, do you want to share or pass it on?
Oh, I don't have many things that I'd really thought to share ahead of time. Honestly, the closest time I spent with Joe over the past year was caring for Marcia towards the end of her life, towards the very, very end of her life. Sorry, I really wasn't prepared to speak. Joe was so incredibly tender. The words he used as we were together, so close to Marcia, as she was so close to the end of this lifetime. It was a very gentle, soft, not even large Joe, very tender and absolutely just kind and appreciative and scared, shocked. Just such a beautiful man, and in a different way than the way that I mostly knew him as well, which was through the large voice and the large presence and the big laugh. I loved getting to see that side of Joe, even though it was at such an incredibly sad time. So maybe I'll just say that. And I miss him very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite cousin Heidi Feldman to talk.
Just had to make sure I was unmuted. Just a very quick word, inspired by listening to Louis and Marion. First of all, I think I'm picking up on what Ken said about the very unique relationship that Marcia and Joe had with each of their kids. And since Louis spoke, and I can tell, I've known Louis my whole life, I can tell that he's processing Joe's loss. I want to talk about how Joe displayed pride in Louis, not in the big ways, not the big Joe, to borrow Marion's turn of phrase. But I don't know if Louis realized this, but if you were in a room with Joe and Louis was explaining something or speaking about something, Joe's face just lit up. He just took such pride in, this is true of each of his children, but again, since Louis is the one who just spoke, I'll use him as my example. He took a real joy in his children's accomplishments, in their ability to speak well, in their choice of partner. On that topic, I know that no one was more happy than Joe that his children found as partners people who he respected as individuals and who really built independent relationships with his children. Joe didn't try to keep people under his thumb. He wanted to be part of everyone's life, but he wanted everyone to have their own life. And that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Enid Block.
You need to unmute yourself, Enid.
Yeah, I think I did it. Is that okay?
Yes.
You can hear me? I just want to say how wonderful it is to hear about the Bograd family in ways that I hadn't before. I don't know if I ever met Joe, but his face is awfully familiar, so I probably did at some time. But to hear about the happy family that he raised and what a good man he was is somehow like that verse that some of you read about the man with the soft voice and the man who can speak loudly, and how the one man lifts up the other one. I somehow feel that it's lifting me up to hear about happy people, what human life can be, especially in this time of such sadness for our world. And not just those of us who are mourning family members, but everybody. As Joe Biden said, the 500,000 people and all the families who are mourning them. And then when you extend that to the world, oh my gosh, and what it's going to be in the future. But people with the spirit of Joe, it seems to me, are the only hope for the world. And they're so dedicated, as Harriet and Ken are, to helping the world. It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you so much, Enid. I'll share, my mom asked me to share a story that I wrote also on Facebook, so some of you might have seen it, but the nigun or wordless melody that I began with is not a traditional nigun. It is actually the wordless version of a Passover song that was Uncle Joe's favorite Passover song. And I'm going to just add a little bit that I didn't add in my Facebook version, which is that Uncle Joe and I were very dedicated to finding good matches for his children. people have talked about how happy he was, but I just want to say that I, as like a 9-year-old, was like really involved in trying to make sure they found the right people. And Uncle Joe, he had this special song that was sort of a vetting process / hazing that he would sing. And I'll explain, it's like a song with rules. And basically at the chorus, he would sing, lecha, ulecha, lecha, ki lecha, lecha, af. And if he raised his left hand, everyone was supposed to say off. And he would explain this to the people. And then the whole family knew to do it. And then after a few verses, he would raise his right hand and it would potentially psych out the new candidate for the family or guest or friend who would shout off at the wrong time. Then there'd be another verse where he would raise both hands and the great legal minds of the family would debate about whether or not that was like constituted the appropriate conditions to shout off or not. But I just remember, so first of all, with his commanding presence, it was like, he was leading this, like this was very serious. And when I was younger, like I didn't know. So I thought this was like a very important life test that people would go through. And I also, I remember when Marion came and Uncle Joe took me aside and was like, how do you think she's going to do? And I was like, I think she's going to be good. Like, I like her. And I went, and I don't know if you remember this, Marion, but I interviewed you like in the kitchen first to make sure that I was like approving. And I was very positive about it. Also very positive. I remember about Jean. And I had a desire to go and like warn you to, you know, like protect you from the hazing. And Uncle Joe was just like, I know what you're thinking. I know you're like weak and kind tendencies. So he prevented me. I have no recollection actually of whether or not they passed, but I think really what the test was not about whether or not you said off, but actually in the right place, but actually about whether you could respond gracefully to this ridiculous shenanigans and laugh at yourself, which is something that I love about Uncle Joe, is that he, at the same time, was very serious about the things that he cared about and very much able to laugh at himself and find joy and sort of create these ridiculous, sarcastic situations at the same time. So I'm just so grateful that the 3 spouses passed the test and that everybody in the family got to pass the test. And I hope that whatever parallel test there is to get through the pearly gates, Uncle Joe has practiced for so long and he is ready.
Can I ask Harriet and Naomi a question? Because that song was big for my dad too. But in my dad's version, there's fishing involved. Yeah. Right, and so I just was wondering, maybe at the Bograd Yucht Passovers, way back when, was that a big song for the family?
We always sang it. I don't remember having a game, but we always sang that. We sang the songs at the end of the Seder, and that was one of the ones in our Haggadah.
We had Passover together every year. We used to have one night with the Bograd family and one night with the Yuck family. And it wouldn't surprise me. Okay, I think what Margie didn't emphasize enough was that it was like Simon Says, so that when it was explained that when he raised his left hand, you should do as Simon did. But if it wasn't the left hand, Simon didn't say to. And it wouldn't surprise me if we started that at our Seders long before the families got so large that the Bograds and Yucks had to separate. So it's very possible that your father remembers it from our early Seders.
I want to say one more thing. That was we had one night with the Yucks and one night with the Bograds and Yucks. The Yucks were with us both nights. The Yucks were my mother's twin sister's family.
Not true.
Not true. We'll work it out later, Neil.
Okay, I want to call my Aunt Evelyn.
You have to unmute yourself, Evelyn.
Can you see me?
Only half your face.
There you are. Oh, there we go. Okay.
You have to hold it up.
Of course, I met Joe and Marsha
this is Ken's
when
sister.
Kenny and Harriet became engaged. Yeah, this is the Kenny side of the family. When Kenny and Harriet became engaged, and I said, furniture, yay! But they were the loveliest. They were the loveliest people. And both of them, Marsha and Joe, I always really felt a connection. When there was an affair or something, I would sit with Marsha. And I mean, such a classy lady. And Joe was always so gracious when we came to the store. And as I told Margie, I have the Bograd Memorial Room because all my furniture comes from Bograd's, and I've only covered the couch once. And I'm going back to like 1977. So I'll never forget Joe and Marsha, both of them, because I just look at my living room and there they are. And I mean, when I would say, Bograds, you know who they are? Oh, of course we know Bograds. Well, that's my family. So I will miss them. I will miss them, Kenny and Harriet, when we come to your house. And they'll always be in my heart. And as I said, I just have to walk into my living room and say, hi. That's it from me.
Thank you, Anne Evelyn. I want to pass it to Joe's beloved daughter-in-law, Jean.
Thanks, Margie. And hello to everyone, those that I know and love dearly, and those of you that I don't know. I do feel like that was a great segue into Joe's passing being so sudden. It is hard to kind of have a coherent series of thoughts. I think we're all very, very, we're all grieving, and it's going to take a while. But to just comment on the enormity of Joe's personality, and to bring in that component of his connection to at least one of so many communities, which would be the furniture industry and his family. Because as my husband said in his eulogy, the furniture industry was his second family, but it wasn't really all that distinct in some ways. Our family, our Bograd family and Goldstone family were in so many ways, were parts of the furniture, the furniture community, and vice versa too. There were multiple people in our family who either worked in the store that Joe's father and uncle created, or had their own furniture businesses. I'm thinking of the Brodies that Susan married into, and David Goldstone taking his family's furniture business. It's just that you can't think about Joe if you knew him without knowing about furniture and how important the business was to him. He had friends, dear friends and family, who, when the Bograds had an enormous furniture sale, people would come in and help out. And I wish I had seen this, but I wasn't connected to the family at the time. Margie apparently had run a babysitting business. At one point, Joyce has stepped in and had done some programming for some of Joe's early efforts at computerizing the business, or earlier efforts. And there are always the memories that I will have of more recently our kids, two of Joe's grandchildren, Evan and Ben, because my husband also worked in the family business, of our coming to the store And, you know, the boys just kind of tearing around. Like, what child wouldn't love to have a furniture store as a play space? And I know that for Max and Sadie, when they visited, it was available to them too, with a lot of love from Joe and Marcia. And I just can't say enough about how, for Joe, that was part and parcel of who he was. And there is a memorial page that is online, and I don't know if the link has been shared with you all, but certainly people are more than welcome to take a look at that memorial page, because there are lots of tributes and photos. And again, you'll see, I think, pictures of, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know if there's a picture, but parties at the store or the warehouse in Patterson, right, Aunt Harriet? As well as you know, tributes from furniture reps and other people who were involved and deeply touched by Joe's passing.
I'm trying to type it into the chat, but my computer isn't responding. 1 second. We'll see if I can get it to respond. I'll put it in the chat when it behaves. I just want to add some basic facts about the story. My father came to the United States in 1922, along with his older brother had come a little earlier, but he came with his parents and another brother and sister, and worked as a door-to-door peddler. Went to school at night and eventually actually graduated from NYU. And in 1930, just at the beginning of the Depression, he and his brother opened a furniture store in Patterson, New Jersey, and were successful because they had such loyal customers already from having gone door to door peddling. You know, they would buy things for people and then come back every week to get, installment payments. And the store was in one location. It moved to a new location at 288 Main Street in Patterson on the day that Joe was born in 1935. And it continued in existence. Joe went into business with my father when he was 21, and Mark went into business with Joe, I'm not sure exactly what year, but the store continued for 89 years. And was, so many people in the greater metropolitan area knew it as Bograd's Furniture, as the place that they got their special furniture. Although Ken loves the story that my mother would tell, that she always felt like a family therapist when she would still there part-time, and she would take a young couple around with the in-laws, the parents, and they would be fighting about the furniture, and she'd be being the family therapist. Or they would want to buy something very expensive, and she would advise them that they couldn't afford it. That they couldn't afford it and they should come back, when they had more money sometime. But for now, why don't they get something that doesn't cause them problems? So Joe inherited this sense of a sort of really ethical and loving place this furniture store was, that people could come to as they're planning their homes and feel really welcomed and respected and treated like individuals. And Joe carried this on, but then also made the store bigger. From the point of view of, as Jean said, talking about it as a play space. I mean, I loved going there as a young child when I would, run up and down the halls. There was this little ramp I could run up and down. My cousin told me that with that same little ramp in the basement near the bathroom and the water cooler, he would get a wooden dolly that they used to move furniture, and he would go down the ramp on the dolly like it was a sled. I just learned that this week. Sweet 16 there? There was a warehouse, and I had my Sweet 16 in the warehouse. We moved all the furniture out, and we had a square dance in the warehouse. So as Jean, from my perspective too, Jean, there was a real connection between the family and our lives and this wonderful store. I went to school in Montclair, and I would take a bus to downtown Patterson, go to the room that was all reclining chairs. It was like an airplane with a room full of reclining chairs. And I'd pick my favorite reclining chair and do my homework there or rest until my father was ready to drive me home. Anyway, and then I used to love helping out and selling in the store. And Joe would be so proud of me that I could go in a catalog and look up, whether this piece came in a different size or a different color. And with my law school skills, I could do that. And he would treat me with such pride. And I'd always love it when I made a sale. But even if I just welcomed someone and then someone else took over, it was fun for me.
Thank you. And I'm just thinking also about how each of the siblings is such a welcoming home. Just how furniture is a business. And he was a businessman, but also he was a person who was a cultivator of home and welcoming and everybody in the family is just so much like home and hearth, having people over. So I'm also grateful for that. And for his fairness, just to repeat the Trump story, apparently Donald Trump came in and was like, hey, are you going to give me a good, a special deal? And my Uncle Joe said, I give everybody a good deal. We're not, I don't give anyone special favors, which I think is just kind of a good sense of ethics and fairness and not backroom deals. Okay, I want to I think I'm going to transition us towards the end of the service, and then if people want to share more after, we'll keep it open, but just to respect people's time. So Larry Pinsker, would you be willing to read the Danny Siegel piece if you're still there?
And I have to find it, so give me a second. Hold on. Why am I not? Okay.
I just thought that a message from Colleen. Are you a Holocaust educator? There was a woman that he was very fond of.
Hi, Harriet. Yes, I'm very sorry. I'm so sad.
It's just another piece of Joe's story was that he loved your work working on teaching children about the Holocaust.
He was absolutely, both Joe and Marcia were constantly cheerleaders for me all these years. And it was the first time I met them was 23 years ago, the week he passed in a snowstorm when we had all that snow. And it was friends from that first phone call. When most of you don't know, but I lived behind Bograd's. So I was running a program in my school teaching about the Holocaust. And I thought, well, maybe they would be interested. My whole life changed that day. They were on board, they were supporters, they got people to support the program year after year after year. And if it wasn't for them and their commitment and the way they embraced me, this program wouldn't have lasted as long as it did.
And there was someone here earlier who also was from Patterson Development. Joe also was a major leader in turning the Great Falls in Patterson, the waterfalls, into a historic district.
And in those early days, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to raise the money every year. And I'd stop in the store regularly and they would give me advice, counsel me. Joe had a lot of big ideas. Marcia would get me on the side and say, let's try this. They were just such good friends to the program and always, always, always looked after the program.
Colleen?
As many of the people from the beginning, from that first year in 1998, looked after the program. And some of those people that they brought in are still with us. And some aren't, but they were the reason why that this program had a life.
Colleen, could you explain about the program a little bit? It's a phenomenal effort that she's engaged in. And it really does, what Colleen has done within various organizations, various school systems is really extraordinary. Yeah.
And this is Mark Bograd, the middle son who ran the furniture business.
Yes, Mark knows me well. I'm so sorry, Mark. So yes, it was in 1998 when I was teaching in Midland Park High School. I was actually teaching deaf students in a regular high school, and we started teaching the Holocaust. And within those first few years, I wanted to take students on a Holocaust study tour because I had gone on one as a teacher, and I thought that they should be exposed to that. And the only way to do that was to fund the program. And so when I went on the trip for teachers at this state, I realized that funding was available for teachers, or for politicians before it was available for teachers. Teachers had to find their own way. And I thought, well, if politicians go on this trip and not pay attention, we're making a big mistake. We need to take students. And so that following year, I started to work on a program, and it wasn't until February. So the trip was already ready to go in April, and I was trying to figure out how to put this money together. And that's when I first talked. It was my winter break in February that we first had this conversation. And that's how that first trip happened. And then there were 19 trips since then. And I moved to another school after 4 years, to New Milford High School, which is where I am now. And last year would have been the 20th trip, which of course got canceled because of COVID, but we're looking to obviously the 20th trip when life changes. But every single year, Marcia and Joe were supportive. They brought people on. They were always thinking of people. It was the only way this could happen is to talk to people. And they always were thinking constantly throughout every month of every year. Sometimes I would just get a phone call. Oh, I want you to come over and meet somebody, or I want you to call this person. And, at first I didn't know how to ask, but I learned how to ask because in large part, they taught me how to do that. I knew I wanted this for students, and they were really my advisors. And the ones who, I'm teaching in a public high school. So people thought, how's this going to happen? And it was just something that I believed in, and I had support. And the Bograds were the people who really stood behind me and kept being that cheerleader that said, every year we raise the money, we get the kids and we promise, and they pay something, but they don't pay the whole freight. And then we just, it was people like Marcia and Joe that said, well, we'll get this done. We'll get this accomplished. And it was every single year since then, since 1998. This is what we did. And this is stuff that we talked about, a lot of things, but it was always about how we doing? How's the program going? Any new donors? Let me see. I'll ask this one. That's how I learned how to do it. You never leave a stone unturned. I go to museums and I read the walls and I look for people from New Jersey. That's really, this is where, and I'm so very sad that, so soon, I saw Joe right before COVID in February after Marcia passed, because I was so sad that I missed her funeral. And, we spent a really nice time together. Then COVID came. I had COVID, so I couldn't even, we live really close to each other, but I couldn't go see him. We could only talk on the phone and get email.
Thank you so much, Colleen. So. I have my type, I'm not allowed to, my computer isn't allowing me to type, but if you want to read the website where there are memories, it's mykeeper.com, mykeeper.com. And then you can search for Joseph Bograd and you can find it that way. Colleen, if you have something about your program you'd like to put in the chat, we'd love to have it if your computer allows.
Sure.
So why don't you go ahead and let's close this.
Okay, sure, I will. And I would love to see about the program if you're willing to share it, Colleen. Thank you. Okay, so Larry, it's back to you to read the reading from Danny Siegel.
I'm waiting for it to appear.
Is it not sharing?
Not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. Now, yes?
There it is.
Sorry.
If you always assume the man sitting next to you is the Messiah, waiting for some simple human kindness, you will soon come to weigh your words and watch your hands. And if he so chooses not to reveal himself in your time, it will not matter.
This concludes our service. Thank you everyone so much for being here. If I want to just like leave it open, but if people want at this point to go back, I'm not going to call on people, but if you want to go back to just like saying hello and who you are, would be wonderful to just hear. But it's just such an honor to have so many people from all over the country and actually all over the world joining us. I guess maybe really far, it's the middle of the night, so maybe they're not far away, but there's people all over the world that my mom's connected to that have been sending messages of condolences. It's just really such a blessing to have all of you here. So just really thank you so much for coming.
I want to say that too. I'm so moved to see every one of you. And it's so special. Each person who's here, it means so much to me.
It means a lot to all of us in the family. I came late to this since I still lead a retail life. But what I guess I can just say a couple of things about my dad. One thing that I greatly respected and that he learned from his parents was that there are a lot of people in business who have two different heads. They have a retail head, they have a business head, and they have a personal head. And they act one way when they're with their family, and they work other ways when they're with others. And my father was never like that. And he taught me to be the same way, that we only had one way. And the moral principles that governed the way we ran the store were the moral principles that we lived by day in and day out. And it's the only way I know how to be as a person. And I give my father tremendous credit for that, for the idea of fairness, of respect, of community that we tried to build with a furniture store, and that is the kind of thing that you should be building as an individual. And that it's a lesson that I've heard many people who sent their condolences told me in the past couple of days. That's just wonderful. He was a man who was also very comfortable with who he was. He had no problem speaking truth, whether it's to power or whatever. He felt, he did not feel that he had to put on airs in the case of supplier. If he saw something was wrong, he would call it out for what it was. And to that extent, he reminds me a lot of Grandma Pauline in that regard. And in many ways, I guess, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but I think my dad was the perfect blending of his two parents. I think he had the sociability of my grandmother and the keen analytical mind of my grandfather. I'm not saying that my grandfather wasn't wasn't human or a humanist in one way, or that my grandmother wasn't analytical, but they both had their strengths, and they were both embodied in my father. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was really beautiful. you trying to say something, parents? No. Okay.
I want to give people room who want to leave. I want people to feel permission to go, to go on with your life if you'd like. And so we have ended the service, and in an ordinary shiva, you come and you go when you want to. So I don't want anyone to feel pressure to stay, but I'm going to stay as long as people want to, just if you want to keep on visiting.
Just a quick question. I'm so sad that I missed some of this for an emergency in the family, but I see something about a recording. Is this being recorded?
It is, although we haven't figured out what we're going to do with the recording. But it is being recorded.
I mean, what I did hear was so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to have been able to hear that much. And deep condolences. Sounds like he was an amazing, lovely human being, and this service was beautiful.
Oh, we also need to thank Susan Shore, who,
as usual,
for writing the prayer book in the first place, for writing the outline to give me to work with, for taking whatever choices I made, and then making sure everybody knew what their parts were, and getting it all written up for Margie, and getting the words to any songs we added. This is the typical Susan Shore, action, and teaching me how to do Shiva minions over the years, and and of course, thank you, Margie. It was such nachas for us to have you lead this and share you with our community. And I want to hear from Susan Merowitz. You have to unmute yourself.
Muted.
You don't know how to unmute yourself? We can't hear you.
Okay, if you don't know, if you look at there in the bottom left, there's the mute button. And
you wiggle your mouse first. If you wiggle your mouse, you'll see a whole lot of icons, and the one farthest to the left says mute, and it has a red line through it. If you click on it, then it unmutes.
How's this?
It worked.
Okay, so I was really glad that Mark talked about your mom and dad, because I kept thinking about them. They really were very influential for me, and your mother in particular was my favorite grown-up ever in the world. So I could really relate to what Mark had to say. I thought Margie looks beautiful. Her family looks beautiful. She did a beautiful job. So I thank you for that. And it's a pleasure for me to hear some of the wonderful people in your congregation. And I hope we get to see each other soon.
I hope so.
And hug.
I'd like to say a word. I was born in Paterson, New Jersey. And my parents were born in Paterson, New Jersey. And thinking about the Bograds, I knew Harriet somewhat, and other members of the Bograd family when I was growing up. But I was thinking about the way one identifies oneself, and part of who we are is place, how we where we put ourselves, and that for me means Paterson, and that means the store, and it was part of my consciousness. I think of downtown, and so I just wanted to put that in as a note of identification. You were talking about the store before, and it was very much part of my consciousness growing up in Paterson, and I wanted to put that in.
I also want to call on Sylvia Perelman. I'm so thrilled that she's here. I lived on 41st Street between 18th Avenue and 19th Avenue, and she lived on 40th Street between 18th and 19th. And until I was 4, my mother's twin sister lived 2 doors away, and my cousin, who was 2 years younger, and she were best friends, and we were all close. And there was also some kind of relationship. Her grandfather was the first cousin of maybe my father. But so Sylvia's from Lexington, Massachusetts. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, so am I. I'm really very glad I could be here. And I do have a Bograd Brothers story, which is that my bedroom furniture when I was a kid, of course, came from Bograd's, and we still have it, and it's still in use. And when we got married, of course, where did we go? We went to Bograd Brothers and got bedroom furniture, and we still have that. So some of it. So yeah, so we go back a long way, and I always sort of envied your large extended family and felt as though I was a peripheral part of it, but always enjoyed being with all of you. So I'm glad I can be here now, sort of the way anybody can be any place these days. I said to Benj after dinner, I said, you know, I feel as though I'm actually going someplace now. And here I am in front of my computer, which is where I spent a lot of time, but I feel as though I am someplace else.
About Kaplan when you were in high school, maybe with his brother.
Oh, is Mel still here?
Yeah, it's like 1 second ago.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, he was asking me, Mel Skult had just spoken, and Mel Skult is actually a world-class authority on Mordecai Kaplan, the philosopher who started the Reconstructionist movement that our synagogue is part of. And he was prompting me to tell a story I would like to tell when Mel was here, but I've lost him. I'm not sure he's still here. But I was very friendly with Alan Skult, Mel's younger brother. And I can remember Alan coming to our youth group and telling us about Mordecai Kaplan because his big brother was going to the seminary and studying about him. And I can remember, you know, I can picture Al Skult even holding a book by Kaplan that his brother had told him about. And that's the first I learned about Mordecai Kaplan was from Mel Skult's younger brother.
Well, thank you.
And I want to say hi to my daughter, Sarah, who's here. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, sweetie.
Who's in North Carolina. And to our dear friend, Bela Kay, who's here.
Hi, Bela and Peter.
Oh, and for those who are planning to come to the Purim Spiel this weekend, I just want to tell you that we're doing Havdalah at 6:30. And after Havdalah, we have a warm-up act for before the Purim Spiel, and that is that Bela's friend Peter does hand flute, and he's going to do a wonderful piece of hand flute music on tape that we're going to play after Havdalah before the Purim Spiel. But I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I wanted to wish Alan Godhelf a happy birthday, but who are George and Abe?
He has the same birthday as. How could he? George and Abe were a week apart, weren't they? That's a joke that went by everybody.
No, yes,
I was. Hi, Rosie.
Hi,
Rosie.
Hello, sweetie.
Yes.
Grandma, Papa. Hi, Grandma, Papa. Well, I want to just have a shameless plug for a moment that I will be dressing for Purim as Rabbi Vivian, who is the main character in a new set of mystery novels that are an updated version of the Harry Kemmelman On Friday the Rabbi Went Somewhere.
Friday the Rabbi Slept Late. It was the first.
On Friday the Rabbi Slept Late, that are like Rabbi Solves Whodunit kind of thing. And my friend Rachie wrote a wonderful book that is a new version that I recommend that's called the Rabbi Who Played with Fire. That is partially based on me, but a more queer version.
Okay.
Oh, Maxine's here. Hello, Maxine.
Hi, all.
I'm so glad you could join us, Maxine.
Thank you. Hi, Jean. I see you. And I called Sylvia to say hello because I'm the one that was her living 3 houses away when we were kids.
Maxine is like a sister. She was the younger daughter of my mother's twin sister, and my brother and sister were 6 and 8 years older, but Maxine's sister was 4 years older, and she was 2 years younger. So we actually played more together than I did with my own brother and sister.
That's for sure. And if our parents went anywhere and needed a babysitter, we slept over at the other one's house, which was lovely. But
hi, Max.
Hi.
So, Harriet and Ken?
Go ahead,
who's speaking?
It's Bill and Mary.
Hi, Bill and Mary.
And we want to show you the couch, we bought from your store. I don't know if you can see it.
Probably 20 years ago.
that we got, we live in Edison, and we drove a long way because we had such regard for you and your family. And so
we got a good deal.
And we got it. So we wanted to be sure to be on it tonight, and we extend our condolences.
Yes.
And I was just thinking too, Harriet, you and I have a really strong tie. The first time we met you and Ken, you and I had both just been diagnosed with breast cancer at the same time, and here we are, 34-year survivors, and so we've had a lot to celebrate over the years, and you're really special, and we think of you every time we're on the couch.
Pictures in 24 years. Thank you, Mary and Bill.
The couch is as good as new.
You've obviously taken excellent care of it.
So Harriet and Ken, I'm going to say goodnight. It's Susan in Chevy Chase.
Hi, Susan.
Hope I'll see and talk to you soon. Okay.
I hope so.
Be well, everybody. And to Sylvia and to Maxine and to Sarah, my greetings.
It was nice to see you, Susan. It's been a long time.
Bye.
Who's Sarah? What? She said into Sarah. I didn't know who Sarah was.
Maybe our daughter.
Oh, Sarah Klein. Yeah. Wait.
My living room is about to be turned into a dance studio because my daughter's about to Zoom a class and I won't be able to hear you anymore. So I want to send my love and say hi to my Aunt Mackie, who just disappeared from my screen. Oh, there she is. She looks like she's frozen. But so my love to all the Bograds and Kleins and Robbinses and just my condolences. And I'm very, very sorry for your loss. And hopefully we'll get to see each other at a better time, at a happier time.
Thank
Good night.
One of our last family gatherings was at Miriam's daughter's bat mitzvah in, was it February or January?
It was January, yeah.
Everybody went in Austin, Texas.
Yep. I'm so grateful the timing of that, I have to say. Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Talk to some of you soon.
I also want to send my love and condolences. And I hope, as my sister said, that we shall meet again soon in happier circumstances.
I'm sure we will.
Thank you, Debbie.
Harriet, I haven't said anything. I'm so privileged to be part of your shiva, and I loved hearing about your wonderful brother. And the only thing I want to add to this is that Harriet changed my life and my husband's life through Kulanu. And while Kulanu wasn't mentioned once here, because I understand that this is about Joe, before I leave, I need to thank Harriet. And I see and I learned from this, that the apple does not fall far from the tree. So I want to thank Harriet and say, it was nice meeting all of you, and you're all privileged to be part of such a lovely and extended family.
I can't believe that you and Jerry, you got here at 5:30 and you stayed the whole time.
We're always the last to leave. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But it was a privilege. It was a privilege to be here. And Harriet, I sent you a link to a book about Jewish peddlers by Hasia Diner. And
well, somebody else told me about a book about Jewish peddler. Is Maxine still here?
I think Maxine is gone.
Johnny Wolf, whom I spoke to last night, told me about a book that sounded just like my father.
Well, I sent you a link to the book. It's by Hasia Diner, and I read it. Jerry and I read it on some plane ride somewhere, and it's fabulous. And it really describes the role of the Jewish peddler in all kinds of places in the world, and especially in America.
Quick. No, I know. I have to go to rehearsal.
Oh, Ken has to leave for, what time's your rehearsal?
I think we should end this meeting and thank everybody.